says, let me just leave the rest, Ministry of Energy and the Africa Energy Bank. I don't have the papers to know exactly how it was titled or the other paper for yesterday. It looks like there's something.
I'm listening here, sir.
It looks like, I feel like there's something wrong with the wording. In one store, the agreement is for establishment of the African Energy Bank. Then the charter is of the Africa Energy Bank. And the agreement of headquarters is Africa Energy Bank. Unless they don't mean the same. That's I'm only seeking for your direction. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. The documents that were presented to the House, these were the headings. But the table office will check again. If there's any error, they will correct it. Page 16, 16. Page 17. Page 18. Page 19. Honourable members, subject to the corrections effected, the votes and proceedings of Friday, December 15th, 2023 are hereby adopted as a true record of proceedings. Yes, Honourable.
That, with respect as was agreed at the commencement of public business, may we turn to page 14 and take item 30 on page 14, Speaker.
Honourable members, item 30. Motion by the Minister for Health. Yes.
Speaker, may I seek your leave for the item to be taken by the Deputy Minister instead?
Yes, Honourable Deputy Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that item listed number 30 on page 14 of today's other paper, that this Honourable House approves the sum of 15 billion 577 million. Mr. Speaker, I want to take it again. Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that item listed number 30 on today's other paper, page 14, that this Honourable House approves the sum of 15 billion 577 million 237,297 for the services. See this for the services of the Ministry of Health for the year ending 31st December 2024. I so move.
Yes, Chairman of the Committee.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion, and in so doing, request of the House to fully adopt this report for the estimates of the Ministry of Health. Mr. Speaker, in so doing, I also draw the attention of the Hazard Department to capture fully the contents of this document, but with a correction. on the conclusion, some of the documents read 3070, but it is 3070,000. So there's a large notice.
No, but Chairman, if there's any correction to be effected, effect that before you move the motion, before you present the report.
The report that I saw, one of them, I made a correction, but I saw in one of the documents that 15,577,230. So that 77, yes, 237. It is 270,000. 237.
No.
237, but they wrote 23070.
70.
Kindly delete.
Yes.
And the 10-0, please let's make it straight. 10-0, line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 70, delete TY. So it become 37.
So you want to draw the attention of the Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker,
And I remember
my
that
attention has been drawn by the majority leader also that on the motion, there is some discrepancies as far as the figure is concerned. Yeah. Yeah. So.
and also, yes, in the motion it is 279.
Yes.
And your report is 278.
Yes. Mr. Speaker, we would want to go by what is in the budget, which is 279.
Yeah.
Very well. So the motion paper is correct. Then you will correct your report and change 8 to 9.
Mr. Speaker, with regards to the performance of the health sector, this year, in terms of the Ghana Health Service, it's procuring a loan of about $181 million, which will go into primary health care, basically with what seeks to increase access to health care and quality of care, with special interest in this new network of practice where it will make a lot of specialist care available to basic care at the health centers or the sub districts. Mr. Speaker, that is encouraging in a sense that this is the areas where poverty is most and equity therefore means that if you do programs that will be at a sub-district level, then really you are impacting in the lives of the people. And also, the National Vaccine Institute has taken off. Mr. Speaker, we are also representing them in this budget with their estimates. And then we're looking forward that taking off next year, they will be very productive as far as the vision is concerned. Mr. Speaker, in terms of the health insurance, they are able to enroll about 14.4 million people out of the target of about 20 million, which is encouraging. Now, the benefit package, they seek to increase it. They want to enroll men with prostate-related diseases and then include others like anemia and its related complications as part of the health benefit package, which to me is also encouraging. With regards to cancer, there will be increase in the screening of cancer also to be taken care of by the NHIS, and this is also reassuring. In terms of health infrastructure, a couple of projects have been completed, that also give true meaning to universal access to healthcare. And that in my support of the policy or the principles, I made it clear that healthcare is supposed to be everywhere. If the universal healthcare coverage for 2030 will be achieved, then our focus in the regional capitals should be limited. In times we have made a lot of achievement or gains if, for instance, we put hospitals in maybe a tertiary hospital in Greater Accra or a quaternary center like the UGMC. Yes, it's good to hold high the achievement or the gains, but this sort of practice needs not to be encouraged. We need to know that the larger chunk of the population of this country are in the rural areas. And for that matter, it is imperative on us. So I'm passionate about it, Mr. Speaker, to encourage the policymakers to think that driving Agenda 111 at all levels where a lot of health infrastructure will be available would encourage access. Mr. Speaker, so almost over 30 facilities have been completed, and it's spanned from across all the regions, and that is encouraging. Mr. Speaker, in terms of the leadership in the tertiary institutions, they made some investments. Olebu did in the area of CT scan, Confanoche, a theater for children. We observed that they could do better. Indeed, we observed they could do better. And Mr. Speaker, I jump all over to, I've mentioned Agenda 111, it's okay. I would want to look at but I've asked the Hansa Committee to capture fully the content of this document. Mr. Speaker, lest I debate my leader, that on this occasion I would want his attention that the Hansa Committee is capturing the full documents of this document. So in reading all of this, I would draw the House back to its programs of the day. So, Mr. Speaker, so with the financial performance of 2023, Mr. Speaker, the ministry had approved a budget of 15,284,950,255 cedis. Out of this amount, 8,764,670,893 Ghana cedis was allocated for compensation. Mr. Speaker, it continues there on with the programs and the table as has been captured. Almost about 72% of this allocation goes into human resource and compensation. Mr. Speaker, if the health sector will continue to spend about 72 to 75% of its budget on human resource, we are going nowhere. We are just going nowhere. It's either we increase the budgetary allocation to the Ministry of Health, because it's not also going to go down. Mr. Speaker, you have Agenda 111 projects coming, and you are going to hide more of them. Also, it's interesting that when I go into the outlook for 2024, you would see that, Mr. Speaker, there is interesting revelation as far as attrition is concerned. And the ministry would be up and doing in its clearance. As of now, since 2020, we've not had any clearance in terms of recruitment. And there are also people going. The Speaker, if they said it's not an issue for us to panic, but they said it's a worry, because there are a lot of labor waiting to be employed. If this is so, then I ask that we give them clearance to employ some of these health workers to replace those who have left, which is one issue which to me is very eminent. Mr. Speaker, in the outlook of 2024, the ministry looks forward to achieving the following objectives: scale up digitalization through the expansion of the health information management systems, implementation of the network of practice, continuous strengthening of health regulation, establishment of the Health Security Center to coordinate health emergency preparedness and response, production and deployment and retention of health workforce through labor market analysis, develop IGF guidelines to improve revenue collections and utilization, and then local production of anti-snake venom and other vaccines with the newly created National Vaccine Institute. operationalize the newly established bioequivalence center in Ghana for the production and export of herbal medicines. And the ministry would look with the NHIA to implement the revised essential services package. With the CAPEX outlook, Mr. Speaker, the ministry intends to focus on progressing and completing ongoing projects to attain 100% completion, as indicated below. And it's about only 6 of them, so I'll just say and jump to conclusion. This morning, the Speaker, Majority Leader, has decided to heckle me. He's the same person who said I should read in detail, and then now he's asking me to go to conclusion. So, Mr. Speaker, I will not jump to conclusion. However, I want to also draw the House to an interesting observation as far as the Food and Drugs Authority is concerned. Mr. Speaker, it's a candid opinion of the committee that the Food and Drugs Authority should retain 100% of their IGF. Mr. Speaker, as of September, the expenditure they performed almost about 97%, and we know as of now they've gone beyond what was appropriated for. Mr. Speaker, if this continues with leaving, reclassifying them as level 4, all over the world, it's few developed countries that have their FDAs recognized as level 4 facilities. And they need labor to fill in spaces. Mr. Speaker, if we don't take time, with that meager resources available for them to operate, and the inability to resource them effectively, if this continues, Mr. Speaker, there's going to be a time soon that with all the investments we put into FDA for vaccine production and for level 4 classification, we'll start losing their labor because they cannot sustain them. And capping them at 70% is so not good. They have proven this year that they have outspent what was capped. So we need, as a House, to take this issue so dear, to speak to the Finance Minister to understand that we need them to retain more, or best in the view of the committee, to make them to retain 100% of the IGF. Mr. Speaker, in conclusion, as the Majority Leader has directed me to do, after carefully examining the 2024 annual budget estimate, but what am I doing? This is not a conclusion. Oh, Wafa, behave. After carefully examining the 2024 annual budget estimate and 2023 budget performance of the Ministry of Health, as well as the Ministry's outlook for 2024, the committee hereby recommends that this House approves the total sum of 15,577,237,279 Ghana cedis for the operations of the Ministry of Health. The committee further requests that the Ministry of Finance will release funds regularly and honor its commitment to the Ministry of Health to ensure effective performance of the mandate. Respectfully submitted. Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Ranking.
I'm most grateful, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to support motion itemized 30 on page 14 of today's order paper. Mr. Speaker, I cannot start the debate on the estimate of the health sector without reference to the Abuja Declaration. Mr. Speaker, the Abuja Declaration, among other things, enjoins us to invest not less than 15% of the total expenditure of the year. Mr. Speaker, looking at about 15.6 billion Ghana cedis that has been allocated to the Ministry of Health, it represents about 9%, including National Health Insurance, Agenda 111 and everything, just around 9%. Somewhere in 2016, Mr. Speaker, we're doing about 12 to 13%. So, Mr. Speaker, we need to up our game, especially when it comes to CAPEX. Mr. Speaker, on paragraph 8.1.2, the CAPEX outlook, a lot of project has been enumerated there to be completed in 2024. The Speaker, with the permission I read, the Ministry intends to focus on progressing and completing ongoing projects to attain 100% completion as indicated below. Mr. Speaker, about 6 major projects have been enumerated there. Interestingly, Mr. Speaker, if you go to Appendix 4A of the main budget, the total allocation to CAPEX is 722 million Ghana cedis. That's the total. The Speaker, last year, the CAPEX was around 3 billion. There's a drastic reduction from 3 billion to 722. The Speaker, the interesting aspect is the fact that out of these 722 million Ghana cedis, and with respect to the number of project that has been listed to be completed in 2024, construction of 10-bed urology and nephrology center, the construction of 2 regional and district hospitals, about 6 of them. The Speaker, only 50 million has been allocated as health infrastructure. 50 million. How many projects can 50 million complete within a year? So the commitment is not there. The numbers, the number of projects that's been listed in this budget per the allocation is a clear mismatch. Mr. Speaker, again, if you look at the donor funding, because of the mismanagement of the economy, our donor partners are not encouraged to invest in the health sector. Last year, the allocation was around 2.9 billion, and less than 500 million was realized. And therefore, we need to, Mr. Speaker, pay attention to the health sector and then invest in the health sector. Mr. Speaker, again, let me take you to the ambulance service. Mr. Speaker, on paragraph 9.11, and with your permission, I read, the National Ambulance Service indicated to the committee that despite their vital role, they still struggle to get out releases for their budgetary allocation. For example, out of the 67,500,000 allocation to them, they only received 20.1 million. The Speaker, in 2022, the the National Ambulance Services made not less than 41,000 cases. In 2023, as at the time they appeared before us, they had made only 27,000 cases. Mr. Speaker, as I have read from the report, out of about 67 million Ghana cedis allocation, they had received only 20 million Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, out of the 307 ambulances that were imported into this country, Mr. Speaker, in 2020, about 79 has completely been broken down. They are not in operation. And 12 have been involved in accident. So in all, about 91 of the ambulances are not in operation. Mr. Speaker, if we continue this way, I can assure you that in the next 1 to 2 years, we're not going to have a single ambulance in the fleet. Mr. Speaker, interestingly, once the National Ambulance Service is complaining of funds to even maintain the already existing ambulances, we have ordered about 26 new ambulances again. And out of these 26 ambulances that were supposed to be delivered in 2022 January, only 10 has been delivered as of now, and the rest are sitting in Dubai, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, again, when we don't have a sustainable source of even maintaining the already existing fleets, we are thinking about importing another 112 new ambulances. Mr. Speaker, if somebody is not thinking about, kickback, what is it that we cannot get money to maintain the fleet we have, but we are still buying more? We are behaving like somebody who is fetching water into a cane basket. We cannot maintain the fleet and we keep buying more. Mr. Speaker, it is very, very, very important if indeed we want to take emergency healthcare issues in this country seriously. We must begin to look at the National Ambulance Service. And for me, I am not surprised that they keep demanding money from people before they deliver their services. Per their records, Mr. Speaker, we need to do something very urgent about it. Mr. Speaker, let me take you to Agenda 111. The Speaker, in the report, Mr. Speaker, in the report, the Agenda 111 people who appeared before us indicated that they needed, Mr. Speaker, in the report on page paragraph 9.9, let me quote something from the report before I build on it. Mr. Speaker, the committee observed that as of November 2023, $251.4 million has been spent, and that they require about $1.4 billion to complete all the projects. Mr. Speaker, the commitment of this government to Agenda 111 is just a lip service. Mr. Speaker, they need more than 1.4 billion Ghana cedis to complete the whole project. After the commencement or the cutting of salt for the commencement of the project, 3 to 4 years down the lane, they have released only $250 million for the project. The Speaker, per their own report, this $250 million cannot even finish 20% of the Agenda 111 project. In this year's budget, about 1 billion Ghana cedis has been allocated. Even if you assume that all the 1 billion Ghana cedis will be released or disbursed, it means that they would have spent about $350 million. Mr. Speaker, if we really mean well for the good people of this country, and it is not for the political capital, Mr. Speaker, what prevented us from rolling out this project in phases, so that at least these $250 million that has been spent could probably concentrate on, let's say, 10 projects. We concentrate on the 10 projects, we complete them, put them to good use. Now we have spent $250 million, and these projects are dotted across the country as ongoing. None has been completed. The Speaker, the commitment is not there. It's just for the purposes of political capital. Mr. Speaker, I think that we will have to think about how we do our things with respect to the health sector. And what government is saying out there is completely different from the reality, what they present to us at the committee level. Mr. Speaker, out there, when you watch television, it's as though everything is going on normal, projects are ongoing, they don't lack funds. But when they appear before the committee, Mr. Speaker, they don't have funds to proceed on the projects. And so, as leaders, the least we can do for our people is to be candid, to be truthful to the people. Mr. Speaker, the truth of the matter is that in Agenda 111, funds are not available to fully execute the projects. Mr. Speaker, let me take you to Vaccine Institute, National Vaccine Institute. Mr. Speaker, the National Vaccine Institute has been established. And if I may read, the committee recognized that the institute will begin full operations in 2024, which will involve the recruitment of personnel with a total budget of 78.8 million Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, let's take note that it is not the Vaccine Institute that is going to produce the vaccine or going to manufacture the vaccines. They are only going to perform supervisory role. They are not directly going to produce the vaccines. Mr. Speaker, we have allocated as much as 78 million Ghana cedis to this small institute. And listen to what they are going to use the 78 million Ghana cedis for. Mr. Speaker, if you refer to their own document they presented to the committee, Mr. Speaker, they are going to use, out of the 78 million Ghana cedis, they are going to use 2.5 million Ghana cedis for international seminars and conferences. 2.5. I hope Mr. Speaker is listening. 2.5 for international seminars and conferences, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, that is not enough. They are going to use about 3.4 million Ghana cedis for local seminars and conferences, the one they are hosting. So, Mr. Speaker, together, they are using more than 5 million Ghana cedis in another economy for seminars and conferences. For seminars and conferences. Seminars and conferences, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Ashok, relax. Mr. Speaker, that is not enough. You've not heard anything yet. Mr. Speaker, the institute that is not going to produce the vaccine itself, they are going to use 15.3 million Ghana cedis for facilitation of the manufacturing and the marketing of vaccines, etc. Facilitation. Even those who are going to produce the vaccines itself, how much are they going to use? 15 million Ghana cedis for facilitation. Facilitation. Mr. Speaker, again, they are going to use 13.9 million Ghana cedis for research and development of candidate vaccines. Mr. Speaker, I would want to assure the government that we will be watching with eagle eyes how this institute is going to use the 78.8 million Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, we will watch with keen interest. Mr. Speaker, another issue of interest is about the fact that the health facilities under the health sector or the health ministries are now being made to pay their own utility bills, electricity. Mr. Speaker, I think that it will have a toll on the quality of healthcare delivery in these health facilities, and government must review its policies. Mr. Speaker, I'll give you only one example. Mr. Speaker, if you go to Kolebu Teaching Hospital in 2023, they budgeted for only 3 million Ghana cedis for electricity bill. But now, per government policy, they are going to use 23.9 million Ghana cedis for electricity bills, which means that they cannot get money to pump back to the facilities for the maintenance of their equipment, for buying new equipment. Mr. Speaker, this 20 million difference can even subsidize dialysis for about 2 years. And this is an institution that closed their renal unit for more than, Mr. Speaker, more than 6 months. The water bill, they budgeted only 1.5 million Ghana cedis for water bill. Mr. Speaker, per this policy, they are now paying about 9.3 million Ghana cedis for water bill. And I think that this will not help quality health delivery in the country, and therefore government must revisit this particular policy. Mr. Speaker, to wind up, Mr. Speaker, let's go to FD. Mr. Speaker, you recall, if you heard in the news, that in Gambia and Indonesia, about 300 children lost their lives because of substandard cough syrup. That is how vital or sensitive the FDA is. If you don't have FDA, Food and Drugs Authority, that will be very efficient. That is what you experience. The Speaker, the FDA, when they appeared before us, they had exhausted their budget, and as far back in September, they were not even doing market surveillance. What it means is that I even have a video where people are manufacturing, polluted sachet water for us to drink. The Speaker, it's a very serious concern that I think that the FDA must not be staffed at best, or even in a worst case scenario, they must be taken off government subvention to generate so that they can spend in order to ensure that the food and drugs we consume in this country are wholesome. Mr. Speaker, finally, the College of Physicians and Surgeons, Mr. Speaker, from March 2024, they will not be able to train medical doctors in their specialties because government is owing them in excess of 19 million Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I thank you for the opportunity.
Yes, Honourable Member for Malaysia North.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to contribute to item number 13 on today's order paper, page 14. That is the motion that this House approve the sum of 30. Yes. Oh, okay, yes. Item number 30 on page 14 of today's order paper. That is the motion that this Honorable House approves the sum of 15,577,237,297 Ghana cedis, 79 Ghana cedis for the services of the Ministry of Health for the year ending 31st December 2024, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first and foremost, this year's budget that the Ministry of Health was given went into most of the services and capers that they came to do. And if you read the committee's report on paragraph 7.1.3, where we have health infrastructure, it details some completed projects that the ministry was able to complete. Mr. Speaker, part of these projects were the construction of one regional hospital at Sewa, the district hospital at Konongo, the equipping of Tetekwashi Memorial Hospital in Kibi, the reactivation of the Fomina and Takrady European Market Hospitals, amongst others. Mr. Speaker, same went into the continuous projects that the ministry was undertaking, part of which is captured under paragraph 7.1.7, that is Agenda 111, the Ghana Priority Health Infrastructure Project. That involves 104 district hospitals, 2 regional psychiatric hospitals, 5 regional hospitals, the Accra Psychiatric Hospital. So, Speaker, 90 of these projects are at various stages of completion. And when you go into the report that they brought, about 50% of these projects are at about 65% completion. My ranking member, while speaking on this project, talked about the concentration that we should have put on, say, about 10 of them, so that they could have been completed. Just the same way that we talk about the over-concentration of these hospitals in the capital city. You have RAGE here, you have UGMC here, Mr. Speaker, you have the Bank Hospital here. Access to universal health coverage doesn't mean over-concentration of our hospitals in the regional capitals and the major cities. We need to spread these hospitals into the hinterlands where our people are. That is the need for us to open it up. We should be looking at how we should find money to help finance these projects rather than talking about what has not been able to be done. In current terms, when these hospitals are being completed, Mr. Speaker, since independence, no government, even in total, would have been able to complete health infrastructure projects in this manner. This is where our attention must be, Mr. Speaker. It should not necessarily be about us trying to concentrate them, build 10. Where are we putting the 10? Where would the people in Jaboso be accessing Rage Hospital, GMC? We should be building some of them in Jaboso. We should be building some of them in the hinterland. That is what, Mr. Speaker, would help us. So I would urge my ranking. They never came telling us that they are going to complete all of these projects in just 1 year. If you look at the document they brought, they structured it. In 2024, they are completing about 30% of them. In 2025, they are completing these numbers. They stipulated the amount of money that they would need. And once that money is given to them, then they can pull all of them together in a year. But once it comes in the way the budget is being structured, they've given a timeline. That is where our attention must be focused on. So, Mr. Speaker, we need to be doing that. Mr. Speaker, let me talk about the Vaccine Institute and how my ranking tried to shred the 78.8 million that they need. He talked about seminars, symposiums, workshops, facilitation. Mr. Speaker, yes. Mr. Speaker, they are a regulatory institution. They need to be seeing best practices across the world. They need to bring these best practices down and localize them. The same way when we go for international treaties and conventions, it's incumbent on us to pass acts to mandate. That is what they need to be doing. Mr. Speaker, that is why some members of us on the committee, Mr. Speaker, were taking on a steady tour so that we will be able to be informed as to how the bill of the Vaccine Institute.
He was part.
Oh yeah. Oh, my ranking was part of the tour. Yes, he was part of the tour that we went. I was part of it, Mr. Speaker. I was. So that tour informed us, Mr. Speaker, as to how to be able to manage how these things are done in the global perspective, so that we can localize it here. So yes, in as much as we would also be looking at having an eagle eye at it, it is important that the people's representative are well informed about some of these programs and policies across. Mr. Speaker, it is important that we also add our voice to the Food and Drugs Authority. Mr. Speaker, whilst we have all of these access to universal health coverages, it's also important that whilst we are doing the curative, we must also be doing the preventive. The preventive part of it rests on the Food and Drugs Authority. The ability to put surveillance on foods, drugs that are in our market, that we purchase to consume, is very, very important. So the need for us to decap some of these institutions from their internally generated funds so that they can have access to these funds to be able to go about their duties very well. So that some of these things that will be on the market will be of wholesome quality for all of us. Touching a bit, Mr. Speaker, also on the Ghana Vaccine Institute. Yes, Mr. Speaker. In recent times, you've seen how vaccines have become a matter of geopolitical tools. There's the need for us as a country to be self-sustained as to the production of vaccines and to have control as to how some of these vaccines are made, the availability of them, and when we can, by our own selves, assess them. So it's important that once this act of the Vaccine Institute have been passed, we have the full force backing it in terms of revenue and financing for them to start the production, supervision, and all of it. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, I would want to talk about the utility bills that these institutions, the health institutions, ought to be paying. Once I agree that they need to be liquid, to be free of some of these expenditures, it is also important that these institutions account for the use of every watt or millicent of water that they consume. Because in all the services that they provide, cost component and structure, Mr. Speaker, the revenue that they take, how they spend it, are all part of the processes that they do. You don't take the revenue in isolation only for that. They must also compute into it what would help them to be able to provide these services. And the money or the cost that they put out there to be paid, whether captured out of pocket, which is not right, or whether it's being consumed or calculated by the Health Insurance Authority, part of it ought to go into utility and it is fixed into it. It is for us also to be on them, to be able to segregate all of these things and set them aside, rather than, Mr. Speaker, let's taking it out. It would end up on government. It would end up government have to subsidize all of these things. That is where, if we don't take care, the incremental cost on government's expenditure running over in terms of subsidies that have not been paid becomes an issue. So, Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I'll urge my ranking and my colleagues on the other side and the entirety of this House to approve the motion number 13 on today's order paper on page 14 for the sum of 15,577,237,279 Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
I really wish to commend my MP. The calm way in which you presented your debate and your confidence was a very good one. Continue like that, you do well. Okay? Yes. That's another MP of mine.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the motion item 30 on page 14, that this Honorable House approves a sum of 15,577,237 15,577,237,279 Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, I wish to state on record that even though this amount is what we are approving for 2024, this amount is less than what was approved by the House last year for 2023. The figure for 2023, Mr. Speaker, initially was 15,284,915,255 Ghana cedis. But in the course of the financial year, the ministry upped it to 15,944,536,813 Ghana cedis, a variance of over 659 million Ghana cedis. That all went into compensation. I don't know whether for this budget as well, in the course of the year, they would review it upwards like they did last year. Mr. Speaker, for 2024 outlook, the ministry indicated that it will be completing about construction of 5 health facilities in Elubo, Bogoso, Mpoho, Insuem, Wasadunka, construction of 1 regional hospital at Sewa, construction of district hospitals at Konongo, rehabilitation of the fevers unit at Kolibu, construction of COVID-19 isolation and treatment facilities at Kolibu Teaching Hospital, and the completion of other capital projects. Mr. Speaker, if you look closely at the budget on page 303 of the budget, I'll take you there, Mr. Speaker. Page 303 of the budget, it indicates the facilities, the facilities that the Ministry of Health are undertaking through bilateral agreements. Mr. Speaker, because of the IMF program we are under, it is unlikely, or it appears very difficult, that these bilateral projects might see the light of day. Some of them are the design, construction, and equipping of Eastern Regional Hospital at Koforidua Phase 1, design, construction, equipping, and furnishing of the Urology and Nephrology Center of Excellence at Kolibu Teaching Hospital, construction of 12 polyclinics in Ashanti, Eastern, Greater Accra, and the Ahafo regions, construction of the Tema and Kranza hospitals, purchase of 112 ambulances that my ranking spoke about, design, construction of new 400-bed obstetrics, and all these projects are bilateral projects because of the IMF engagement, are projects that might be very difficult to achieve or might not see the. So I hope, I don't know where the ministry, how the ministry will be able to complete these projects. Looking at the capital, the capex for 20 only region of around 722 million Ghana cedis as allocation for capex. Mr. Speaker, I wish to talk about FDA. The committee suggested that we cap FDA, the FDA with all the 100% IGF. Mr. Speaker, to support this argument, the FDA intends to raise about 250,300,557 IGF for 2020, capped at 70%. What that means is that they would retain 100,240,489 Ghana cedis, and then would consolidated funds about 75 million Ghana cedis. But if you look at their numbers, support GOG compensation to FDA is about 4,864,192 Ghana cedis. What this suggests is FDA's return of 70% plus the GOG compensation. If you add the two, it totals 200,004 1,446,881 Ghana cedis, which is even lower than their total. So, Mr. Speaker, I think if we decap and FDA retains all 100%, government to support even their compensation can take care of all that compensation. Mr. Speaker, I want to talk about Agenda 111. Mr. Speaker, from the report when we met the committee on Agenda 111, this year, to Agenda 111 was done under the health gift, and the amount allocated was 1,125,095,807 Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, if you look at this amount, divided by the exchange rate of 11.5 Ghana cedis to it, it works out to be something in the region of about 97,000 or 98,000, 97 million Ghana cedis. Mr. Speaker, what the Agenda 111 told us was that they need about 1.4 billion to complete this entire project. 1.4 billion to complete this project. Mr. Speaker, at this rate, what it means is that they will print tranches. So if the allocation for 1 year and we do this consistently for them every year, they are likely to need or more to be able to complete all the Agenda 111 projects. Mr. Speaker, is that what government is doing, or what Agenda 111 essentially is doing is master of none? Mr. Speaker, if they had concentrated on just a set number and had said to themselves that for the next 4 years, instead of 111 hospitals, we are on 20 or 30. Mr. Speaker, have been a lot more achievable than this thing of spreading this thing across the whole country, whereby by 2020, when MPP is exiting power, whether they would have been able to complete any project. This is 111 project. They cut short on the 17th of August in Trede. And the president said that this project was going to last completed in 24 months. As we speak today, 24 months from 17 August 2021 should have been 16th August 23. Mr. Speaker, we are in December. And it's still not been commissioned. Nana leaves office. One project. And Mr. Speaker, this country, there are certain trend where anytime there's a change of government, they abandon a lot of projects. But I want that the name builder, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, when he resumes the reins of 7 January 2025, he will continue the Agenda 111 project because it goes to the benefit of Ghanaians in this country. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I would urge the House to adopt a motion and approve the sum of 15,7,237,200 Ghana cedis. And Mr. Speaker, before I take my seat, there's a correction that I want to make on item 8.0. 8.21. It's been captured that to enable the minutes mandate, an amount of 15,577,230,278 cedis has been allocated for the 2023. Just to be corrected, it should represent 2024, not 2023 at all. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for this opportunity.
Mr. Speaker, following from what the member has said, Mr. Speaker, the report, I don't know whether it's typo, because runs through the table 3, rather table 4. The application for 2024. 2024 or not 2023. This is financial 2024. So, and then when you come, the source is the 2024 budget statement and economic policy of government, not 2023. That's why I was saying that it runs through. So they should affect. There's also for table 6. The same thing goes for they are all attributable to them. So they should affect those questions. The Speaker, having said that, I also want to change of the committee to table of the amount stated, the total amount stated, which is 15,577,237,079 Ghana cedis. The managed component, which is 4,617,87693, represents 31% and not 28%. I don't know who they did it for them. 31%, and they have delivery.
I want to be clear, is it 21 or 31?
It's 31.
31.
Indeed, it's 30.7. So 31%. And service delivery, the amount, which is 8826036, is 63% and not 66%. The others okay. Human resource for development 8.8%, which would approximate, and the other one, health sector regulation, is 2%. So then that brings the total to correct those figures. Speaker, having said that, I think we should also be concerned about the issues raised by the ranking member, who related to the Abuja declaration that in conforming, we should aspire to 15% of the total appropriated amount. But he related this now, which is about 9%. The Speaker, what has not been added is the health insurance fund, which is different from look at the schedule. It's 6.7 billion. It's 6.7 billion. It's outside that. So you should do the reconciliation. And the Speaker, I also think that as a house, we have related to these committees of the African Union. I agree we are supposed to help. They will tell us that we should spend 9% on these two. The Speaker, the same convention is telling you spending in the region of about 32%. What if you exceed 100%? So how do we reconcile as a house, as a country? Because it should not just be maybe aspiring to those of us. I think each country has its own priorities and also level of operation. So let's look at them before of debate relate to these figures that have been given to us. I think we should be matter that ranking member, the chairman raised in respect of exited, we should look at their remuneration. Compensation for this year. If the compensation then should climb down, but then as he's saying, we should factor those people in and then allow them to, because then one will say that is the anticipation of those who have left by the figures. Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to pay attention to these matters because we should be doing proper auditing of the nurses who have left to know the deficit, and if we are not increasing, to have the status to be able to employ, to replace those of them who have. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the space granted.
So at the concluded debate, the question is all in favor of the motion. Say aye. All against. The ayes have it. The motion is carried. This House has approved of 15 billion 577 million 37,279 Ghana cedis for the services for health, Ministry of Health for the year ending 31st December 24. Yes, you will.
Speaker, may we turn to page 5. Page 5 and 8D. D for Daniel. Speaker, I will further seek your leave for all three items to be taken with your leave.
Presentation of papers, item 8D. I, by the chairman of the committee.
Reports of the Committee on Employment, Social Welfare and State Enterprises, estimates of the National Labour Commission for the year ending 31st December 2024. Reports of the Committee on Employment, Social Welfare and State on the annual budget estimate of the Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations for the year ending 2024. Reports of the Committee on Employment, Social Welfare and State Enterprises on the annual budget estimates of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority on 31st December 2024.
Reports are duly presented, therefore. Yes, yeah.
Speaker, I just want to draw attention to an apparent omission. What we have done in respect of health. 3 days ago, the chief whip, the majority chief whip, they present reports to Parliament committee. Apparently, the records don't show that health was part of it. What they have done is in vacuum. So I just want to draw attention to the office to include what the chief whip did was supposed to have included on the health committee. So let's get it right. Otherwise, what we have done will be it will be in a later situation. So, Mr. Speaker, let them capture it appropriately.
Very well. Let's correct the record and include the report of the Ministry of Health. Yes, Chief Whip.
So page 13, item
Item 26, motion by the Minister for Defence.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to move the motion numbered 26 on this order paper that this Honourable House approves the sum of 3,891,150,856 cedis for the services of the Ministry of Defence for the year ending 31st December 2024. Mr. Speaker,
Very well. Please correct the record and include the report of the Ministry of Health. Yes, Chief Whip.
I rise to move the motion numbered 26 on this order paper that this Honourable House approves the sum of 3,891,150,856 cedis for the services of the Ministry of Defence for the year ending 31st December 2024. Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
Thank you, Mr.
Vice Chair.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to second the motion ably moved by the Minister for Defense that this Honorable House approve the sum of 3,142,930,486 Ghana cedis for its planned programs. Mr. Speaker, in so doing, I will present the committee's report and indeed the Hazard Department as having been read in its entirety. Mr. Speaker, when your committee met budget estimate for the Defense Ministry, some of the recommendations, Mr. Speaker, one key observation that was to bring it to the fore of the House is the importance or the need to acquire more for the ministry. It is important to observe that capability is necessary to strengthen surveillance of the airspace of the country, especially in the wake of terrorism in the West Africa. Mr. Speaker, the Ghana Air Force therefore needs to acquire additional logistics such as craft, fighter jets, helicopters, needed for rescue and defense purposes. Matter of concern that the Ghana forces recently suffered attrition of trained pilots. It is important that the Ghana Air Force takes immediate steps to augment its fleet to halt this phenomenon. Let's begin. Let me take you to the conclusion of the report. The committee, after carrying of the 2024 annual budget estimates of the Ministry of Defense, hereby the House to adopt its report and approve of the 3,891,151,856 Ghana cedis for the Ministry of Defense for the year ended 2024. I respectfully so submit.
Yes, wrong.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to speak in support of the motion moved by the Minister of Defense and seconded by the acting chair lady of the court. In doing so, Mr. Speaker, I would like to refer to page 7 of the report. And in page 7, Mr. Speaker, point 8 talks about implementation challenges in the 2023 budget. Mr. Speaker, in the 2023 fiscal year, the amount located, which was a little over 3 billion, was revised to a little of over 4 billion Ghana cedis as a result of shortfalls. Mr. Speaker, this the inadequate budgetary for all the security agencies, including the armed forces, one team that they have to grapple with inadequate allocations. Mr. Speaker, we find ourselves in very difficult and challenging circumstances, which warrants an enhancement of the Ministry of Defense and the armed forces. Unfortunately, what we are seeing are cuts, budget cuts. With the limited resources, Mr. Speaker, the Ministry of Defense has done well. They have been able to new units in the armed forces. Look at the report. Mention is made of the 10, 11, and 12 millions in WA
Bolgatanga, Dema. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, there is no corresponding provision of adequate accommodation to house the personnel who are being recruited to work in the newly established units. So when you have that situation, a lack of accommodation for the elements who have been recruited forces, you create problems of indiscipline. Because then the armed forces is going to rent accommodation in civilian space for soldiers. When the soldiers mingle so freely with the civilian population, it is dangerous. You even undermine military discipline in the process. Soldiers are supposed to be say that way. They must only mingle with the civilian population. Trouble, real danger. But here is the case: they are constrained to rent civilian accommodation. Yes. But why has it become necessary to establish new units in the first place? It is the emerging security threats, the threat of violent extremism in the northern part of the country. So, government must understand that the time to step up our military expenditure. The last time, Mr. Speaker, when we said the policy statement in this House, I made the point. If you put together the entire budgetary allocation of the Ministry of Defense Security, it's less than 1% of our GDP. This is unacceptable, Mr. Speaker. We simply are obliged that in times of peace, you must prepare for war. But in our case, knocking at our doors up north, you go there, we have an influx of refugees, and because next door there is a war situation on terror. It is being waged, and people are fleeing into our country, and yet we still don't. Those are signs for us to start preparing the eventuality. When you sit at the level of the committee and hear the lamentations we cannot openly talk about this chamber, then you understand the dangers that we are facing with. It is we lack air combat capability. Mr. Speaker, that is a very serious matter. They talk about the need for fighter. They talk about the need for fighter jets. These are assets you need to effect terrorism. So when it comes to close helicopters to do the close air support for the ground troops to move, you need to do a lot of the surveillance and fire at long range distance. They are saying that we are lacking so far as assets are concerned. The senior minister, no, the Minister of Affairs is here and knows. It became so we had to bring together all the stakeholders, Minister for Finance, to try to create a special fund for the security agencies, including the armed forces, so that they can prepare for any eventuality. Unfortunately, our effort didn't yield any dividend. So, Mr. Speaker, address the entire plenary. I am also making an appeal to the Minister for Parliamentary Affairs and the Majority Leader to revisit the issue of the creation of a dedicated fund to support the security services. Because here we come here and complain about the lack of locations. Now there are threats emerging from the Gulf of Guinea because of resources buried in the belly of the ocean. Should we as a House...
Ranking, hold on. Yes, leader.
Mr. Speaker, just to give my colleague the assurance that it is in the pipeline. We cannot create a fund without the necessary legal regime. It should be predicated on a bill to have this final meeting. The minister is there to have this final meeting. Unfortunately, we will not be able to create space. And I do know that you know that we need to meet again. As it is, we can only have the meeting after the primaries of the MPP on January 27th. So it does appear that we can come back when we resume the first meeting, the fourth session, is meet and then discuss the broad goals of the bill, and then the bill then will come to Parliament. And then the fund could then be created.
Very well, Mr. Speaker. Affairs, a leader of the House for the assurance, the common good of all of us. And Mr. Speaker, like I was saying, the resources we have embedded in the ocean, our exclusive economic zone, also makes it very, very, very to adequately equip our Navy to be able to protect those resources. The last time the Minister for Defense hinted that plans are far advanced for the acquisition of 2 offshore patrol vessels. Mr. Speaker, if you have resources embedded in your oceans, we shouldn't even be talking about the plans to acquire offshore patrol vessels. It is a necessity. We should be having them by now. And because what it means is that we have decided that as a country, we'll leave our national resources and rely on luck for the protection of resources. The last time, Mr. Speaker, we were lucky when a conflict erupted between this country and Cote d'Ivoire. Resources, we decided to adapt legal means to resolve it. Next time around, we will not be too lucky. Speaker, with these few words, I support the need made for the services of the Ministry of Defense for revision. But we should always know what they are doing, give them adequate allocation so that you don't even have to come back for revision like we experienced in 2023. I thank you for the opportunity.
I thought I was guided. I was going to yes.
Speaker, I was to raise a point of order against my ranking, but he has finished. The Speaker, when he said we were very lucky, we were not lucky. If that comes in the hands that somebody will say we were afraid. The Speaker, I think that person should not find space in the hands. We use the legal means, but if we had gotten to another place, we would have used another strategy. So we were not afraid.
Other members said we should just put a question on this matter. So, at the conclusion of the debate of the motion, say aye. Or against, say no. The motion is carried. This House, a sum of 801,856 Ghana cedis for defense for the year ending 31st December 2024. Yes. Yes, leader.
To seek your indulgence and that of my colleagues to present papers under item A of item 8. If I may present, I may be allowed to present the papers on behalf of finance.
Minister of Finance. Yes, minority front bench. Presentation of papers. Item 8.
The Speaker wants.
Very well. Yes, Honorable Minister for Affairs.
Request for waiver of import duties, import and export gas fund levy, import VAT and ESM levy, amounting to the Ghana of 4,309,391 United States dollars. Materials and equipment is required to be imported for the construction of a clay calciner system by W Investment Ghana Limited. Loan Agric of Ghana, represented by the Ministry of Finance and Stamp, Fair Vedera of Pau, Frankfurt am Main, for an amount of 11,100,000 euros to finance the Financial Cooperation Governance Program, Audit Service, Regional and District Offices.
Papers are duly presented. They are referred to the Ministry of Finance, Committee on Finance to consider and vote. Yes.
Speaker, page 6. Item 8.
Well,
Speaker, we are
yes,
taking the 2 if the...
Mr. Speaker, with respect, I would want to plead, because the provision of regional and district offices for this service came up strongly at the consideration of their budget. I would want to suggest that the leadership of the Special Budget Committee to them in this matter.
very well. Let off the Special Budget Committee join the Finance Committee in the consideration item AII. Yes. Yes.
Special B 36, page 6, and take item 8F. Okay, we are taking the 2, I and II.
Very well. Report by the Chairman. Committee
on Mines and Energy on the annual budget estimates of energy for the year ending 31st December 2024. Report of the Committee on Mines and Energy, memorandum on terms and conditions of refinancing of the Tasco Phase A facility, recommendation of the Committee on Mines and Energy.
duly presented. That's for the distribution to members.
Speaker 12.
Item 20, motion. Minister of Employment and Labor Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to move that motion numbered item 20 on today's order paper be so moved.
Yes, member of the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. A motion as stated at item number 20 on today's order paper, doing present the committee's report on employment, and state enterprises. I would have the Hazard Department captures the report in its entirety conclusion. In view of the above, the committee recommends that the House adopts its report of 191,041,070 Ghana cedis. The Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations implement its programs for financial year 2024. Respectfully submitted, Mr. Speaker.
Ranking. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise also to support of the on state enterprise, the 24 annual budget estimate of the Ministry of Employment and Labour. Mr. Speaker, I do so because of the critical core mandate of the ministry, namely coordinating labor relations, policies, promoting job creation, fostering a decent working environment, and also industrial peace. Mr. Speaker, I'm looking at the promotion of job creation, and in our report, 2024, Youth Employment Agency is going to recruit about 160 youth into the system. Mr. Speaker, job creation is very critical. It's becoming a national security issue in this country. Of graduates that are coming out every year, and after national service, they even don't have a place to get to or to work. So that gives the ministry a very big task to be given enough funds to create the issue of youth employment recruitment of more than 160 to the system. We also said that at least heads of requirement should be aware or should have access to the process of youth into the system. Because if you even divide by 275 on 600 youth that we are going to recruit for every DA, and that is enough. Sometimes some of the rural communities, we even need people to fill in for parents have recruited and do the job for us. If we actually 600 and about half of them are teachers, I think it will go a long way to fill in the classrooms without teachers. I'm also looking at peace or fostering decent working environment. Is that we inspected about 1,290 workplaces, and I believe that is not, because there are so many workplaces when you visit and look at the environment. When you go to the Act 651, Act 8, 9 specifies the role of the employer and the role of the one of the role of the employer is to ensure safe and then peace environment, and also provide critical basic PPEs for the workers so that they work under a peaceful environment. When you visit some of the companies, I'm aware of a company with their own PPEs, safety boots, you buy their safety boots. So I believe that enough funds should be given to the ministry so that they can function in the 2024 year as we that it will be better. Then I'm also looking at helping to reduce number of risk also in the various workplaces. So this is industry, and then they need more funds. Their expenditure was 86,718 plus. Now it has been 94 million, which means you have to see more of the work in the subsequent year. Mr. Speaker, I believe with this few, I also support that an amount of 191 million 204 an amount of 194 million 41,070 should be approved for the ministry to continue our work. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
At the conclusion of the debate, all in favor of the House adopting the motion, say aye. All against, say no. Ayes have it. The motion is adopted. This House has approved the sum of 191 million 41,070 Ghana cedis, services of the Ministry of Employment and Labour Relations for the year ending 31st December.
Speaker, same page, item 19.
Item 19, motion, Madam Minister for Employment and Labour Relations.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that motion number 19 on today's order paper be moved. I so.
Chairman.
Mr. Speaker, I second the motion listed on page 12 today's order, listed order paper to present the Employment Social Welfare. I will humbly request that the Hansa Department report in its entirety whilst I read at the conclusion. Because Speaker, Labour issues continue to be called to the country's economic development. Nations can potentially halt the government's development efforts. It is therefore in the interest of the government and the entire nation to ensure that the Commission has the resources required to effectively on this mandate. Considering the above, the committee recommends the board and approve the sum of 21,668 Ghana cedis to support the work of the National Labour Commission for the financial year 2024, respectfully submitted.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to contribute to the item number on today's order 19 on today's order paper that this Honorable House approves a million 21,668 cedis for the services of the National Labour Commission ending 31st December 20.
That's a budget approved.
Mr. Speaker, the National Labour is established by an Act of Parliament, specifically by the Labour Act 2003, Act 6.1. Mr. Speaker, this Salaries Commission is also established by Act of Parliament. Here we are considering an estimate for the National Commission, but we are not going to consider an estimate for the Wages and Salaries Commission. It's assumed under the Ministry of Labour Relations. Mr. Speaker, I think what is good for Peter for Paul. Mr. Speaker, if a legal commission, once it is established by an act, we consider their estimates for them. Therefore, I am putting it on the floor that we consider next year consider an estimate for wages and salaries commission as well. Mr. Speaker,
The assets under management currently is around 68 billion. And Mr. Speaker, I beg to be corrected, but I just cannot imagine any single individual organization in Ghana, perhaps apart from the Bank of Ghana, that has a total assets holding like we have in the pensions industry. So the point is that yes, it is growing, and therefore there's the need for us to also be very sharp in making sure that the industry players within the management of pensions are properly regulated. That is why there is the need for us to ensure that the National Pensions Regulatory Authority is well resourced and is also able to get the right manpower to be able to monitor the field. Mr. Speaker, the last issue I want to talk on is the issue of government's contribution to pensions. Yes, when you take the mandatory tier 1 and tier 2 contributions, government has an obligation to its workers that at the end of every month, deductions are paid on behalf of these workers. But like any other payment from the consolidated fund, usually this lasts sometimes 3 months in arrears. And these are normal in any government payment, even though I concede that especially for tier 2, because they are invested and the returns also adds up to the investment of the individuals whose contributions they are meant for. The moment they are paid in time, it goes to the benefit of the individual. So I concede that as much as possible, it should be paid on time. But the law makes provision for a minimum of 3 months in arrears before they are paid. So if it is only when it goes beyond the 3 months that it is seen to be in arrears. And to the best of my knowledge, as of now, government is within its time limit. And therefore, the point about government being in arrears is not too much of an issue today. Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to effect these corrections. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you.
Now I'll put a question. As many as are in favor of the House adopting the motion, say aye. All against that, say no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. This House has approved the sum of 135,204,409 Ghana cedis for the services of the National Pensions Regulatory Authority for the year ending 31st December 2024. Yes. Yes, Honorable Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I want to crave the indulgence of my colleagues that we present the papers on behalf of the committee chairs. That is from 8B.
B as in boy. Very well. Item 8B. Who is presenting on behalf of the chair? Yes.
Mr. Speaker, to seek the leave of the House for the Chief Whip to be enamored to do the presentations.
Yes, Honorable Chief Whip. Yes, Honorable Deputy Whip.
Mr. Speaker, very soon we'll be in government, so I want all of us to take notice of what we are doing. I have no objection to it. The Chief Whip can lay the papers on behalf of the committee chairman. But after laying, you take notice. So 2025, when we are doing same, there will be no objection.
I recall exactly the words of Right Honorable Duajaho. He says, when you are on the left, watch what you say because you come to the right. Yes, Honorable Chief Whip.
Report of the Committee on Food, Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs on the annual budget estimates of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture for the year ending 31st December 2024. Report of the Committee on Food, Agriculture and Cocoa Affairs on the Grains Development Authority Bill 2022.
The reports are duly presented. They are for distribution to members. Yes.
Speaker, shall we continue with C after B?
Very well, item C. You may do so.
Report of the Committee on Communications on the annual budget estimates of the Ministry of Communications and Digitalization for the year ending 31st December 2024.
The report is duly presented for distribution to members.
Speaker E.
Yes, you may do so.
Reports of the Joint Committee on Gender and Children and Employment, Social Welfare and State Enterprises on the annual budget estimates of the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection for the year ending 31st December 2024.
The report is duly presented for distribution to members. Yes, Leader.
If you put G together for the Chief Whip to do the presentation.
Yes, Honorable Chief Whip.
Report of the Finance Committee on the annual budget estimates of the Office of the Head of Civil Service for the year ending 31st December 2024. Report of the Finance Committee on the annual budget estimates of the Office of Government Machinery for the year ending 31st December 2024. Report of the Finance Committee on the annual budget estimates of the National Development Planning Commission for the year ending 31st December 2024. Report of the Finance Committee on the annual budget estimates of the Ministry of Finance for the year ending 31st December 2024. Report of the Finance Committee on the annual budget estimates for the other government obligations and general government services for the year ending 31st December 2024. Report of the Finance Committee on the Budget Bill 2023. Report of the Finance Committee on the determination of the agency of the Ghana Investments Promotion Center Amendment Bill 2023.
All the reports are duly presented and for distribution to members.
Speaker J.
J. By the Chairman of the Committee.
Report of the Committee on Trade, Industry and Tourism on the annual budget estimates of the Ministry of Trade and Industry for the year ending 31st December 2024.
Yes. Any more?
Speaker I.
Yes, I am ready.
Very well. Item I. Vice Chair, yes.
Report of the Committee on Defense and Interior on the annual budget estimates of the Ministry of Interior for the year ending 31st December 2024.
The reports are duly presented for distribution to members.
Speaker L. On page 7.
Item L, 8L, by the Chairman of the Committee. Yes.
Report of the Committee on Education on the annual budget estimates of the Ministry of Education for the year ending 31st December 2024.
The report is duly presented. It's for distribution to members.
Speaker, K, but we're limiting ourselves to Roman 1. K.
Yes. Item K.
Reports of the Committee on Works and Housing on the annual budget estimates of the Ministry of Works and Housing for the year ending 31st December 2024.
Very well. The report is duly presented for distribution to members.
Speaker, M on page 8.
Yes. Item M.
Report of the Committee on Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs on the annual budget estimates of the Ministry of Justice and Attorney General's Department for the year ending 31st December 2024. Report of the Committee on Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs on the annual budget estimates of the Right to Information Commission for the year ending 31st December 2024.
The reports are duly presented for distribution to members.
Speaker, the last will be N.
Very well. N.
Reports of the Committee on Local Government and Rural Development on the annual budget estimates of the Ministry of Local Government, Decentralization and Rural Development for the year ending 31st December 2024.
The report is duly presented for distribution to members.
Speaker, having exhausted all businesses as was agreed, may I move the House to adjourn to Monday, 10 o'clock at the forenoon? I so move.
Yes.
The Speaker, in seconding the motion, I want to comment that we have only next week to rise, and that is why most of these reports have been laid. So, Speaker, the clerks to the various committees should do their best to make sure that the distribution of the reports to the various members is done. And so, Speaker, we've just finished 5 out of our 38 reports to be taken before we rise on next week. So, Speaker, I don't think we are just about half, and that's why we are doing what we are doing. I could hear members asking, where are the reports? The chairman and the ranking members should team up with their clerks and work together so that, Mr. Speaker, we will be able to finish next week and we don't come here and by 1 a.m. we'll be waiting for certain reports to be delivered. We must work together as a team, and I believe members have done well. Leadership too have done well and will continue to do well. Oh, you train me. So, Mr. Speaker, there is job to be done, and I believe members and chairmen and ranking members will comply accordingly. With this comment, Mr. Speaker, I second the motion for adjournment.
Honourable members, the motion for adjournment has been moved and seconded. I'll put the question. All in favour of the motion, say aye. All against, say no. The ayes have it. The House is accordingly adjourned to Monday, December 18, 2023 at 10 o'clock in the forenoon.